Hello, welcome back to another episode of Somewhere Between a Film and TV podcast. We're your hosts. I am Daniel Parra.
And I'm Erwin Trejo.
And number one, thank you so much for listening and watching. Number two, what are they going to do?
They're going to like, comment, and subscribe.
Please do. Erwin, what are we reviewing?
Gladiator II.
We are reviewing Ridley Scott's new epic, his sequel to the original Gladiator. And just so you know, everything we review will always have full spoilers. But before we get into all that, I got to ask Erwin a question. Although, let's switch it up. Let's make it a little bit themed for this one. Were you entertained by this film? Were you not entertained? Or are you somewhere between?
I loved it.
Yeah? He was entertained. I loved it a lot too. I've had a lot of conversations about this movie with people in regards to the first one as well. A lot of
conversations?
Like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
That have... I mean, depends on who you ask, I guess. What constitutes a lot?
I'm asking.
Well, let's really get into it. What did you love about this?
What I loved about it was for sure the atmosphere of the movie. It genuinely feels like a set piece just throughout, like, just the entirety of that.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that century.
Yeah.
As well.
200, 1200 something. We're not historians.
No, not at all.
I understand that there's a lot of historical inaccuracies here. I also understand that there's a scene in this in which there are sharks and a gladiators.
Dude, that was awesome.
But, however, at what point are you willing to draw the line for something being cool and something being true to life?
That is awesome. Yeah. Also realizing this is a movie, not a documentary.
Yeah. You don't know that.
I mean, I think that would clarify if it's a documentary or not.
No,
they won't.
Yeah, there would be like interviews with the Maximus. He'd be like, "You see what I'm trying to do here?
You see what I'm trying to do here? So you lived for this long."
But I gotta fully agree with you in the sense that, okay, so we're reviewing this and then we're reviewing Wicked. Both the movies this week, this one in particular, well, both of them honestly, felt tangible and real, and yes, there is CG.
You were just like immersed in the world already.
Exactly, yeah. But the Colosseum, I did look at a bunch of the behind the scenes stuff that they released. It's there. That like arena is there.
Yeah, it's like over there.
Yeah. But in regards to the atmosphere, did you like the brooding tone of it? And my question is, did it
I like how dirty it was.
Yeah.
Just because, especially when you were the separation between the wealth and the poor.
Yeah.
And you actually felt like the line was drawn across.
Because they're the middle in the sense that he is originally from Rome. And I'm going to ask you, what is this movie about in a second? Because we got a little bit ahead of ourselves here. But it is kind of a gateway of us viewing initially when they first get there. After the whole thing with the baboons, which we'll also get into, it's sort of something where they're looking around and they're saying, what is this place? And he says, don't be fooled by this. This is a place that's diseased. And the very first experience they have with it is people like either throwing stuff at them or they're like asking for food towards people that are slaves. And they understand that this is all lavish and grand, but there actually is something kind of underneath all of that. And so my question to you about that is, have you seen the first one recently, or do you remember any of it?
No, not recently.
Yeah.
I just remember certain scenes from the first one, but it's been so long. And it's insane to see how far the comparison is from the first movie to the second one, too. It's like over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So I really wish I got to see the first one again before watching the sequel.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted it. I didn't realize how much of the sequel was connected to the first one as well.
No, because I didn't realize that there is kind of I remember enough of it.
Yeah.
My dad was obsessed with it when we were younger.
What man wasn't obsessed with it?
No, exactly. And then this one, although I think people have run into this issue where they keep comparing it to the first one, which maybe we're lucky in the sense that we haven't seen the first one so recently. That... yes, it is very much in the pantheon of dad movies. It's going to be up there with, like, if you were to if like on Thanksgiving Day, you want to have your dad occupied, put on Ford v Ferrari, and then then again, me too. But
I don't think my dad would.
my dad loves that movie, or Gladiator, or honestly
John Wick,
or any of those. Yeah, this also fits into that as well. However, we understand, and I do, that being a dad is
Being
in
a dad.
your DNA a little bit, right? Because what felt really immersive to me about this was the atmosphere as well. Everything felt so real, but also dirty. And yes, the production design is off the charts
insane.
here.
It's so good.
I want to say, like, because sometimes we don't talk about this. What really struck me here were the costumes. Actually,
the costumes were amazing,
Yeah.
especially when it came to the actual like kings and queens and like the generals and the other like counselors.
Yeah.
Their garments were so well detailed and just designed in a way where it just pop off.
No, everybody is dripped the fuck out. And,
That's
and
one way
like,
of saying it.
yeah, but do you have favorite costumes in this? Because I actually do.
Yeah, mine's the Pedro Pascal one.
Pedro Pascal's, and I really love.
One.
Yeah, that one's so cool.
Yeah.
But I really also love what Denzel Washington does with
his clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it's just more of his mannerisms that it feels like he was not really wearing a costume. It just felt like it was a part of like his character.
Yeah, because there are so many choices here made from actors that I know that some people are debating some of the performances in here. Pretty much everyone says that they're all doing a great job, but I have heard some. I'll get into the issues I've heard because I don't know how many we have. I don't have too many. I have like one.
Yeah.
And
I would say I have one.
yeah.
It's like in the beginning.
Oh, it's in the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I know what it is just knowing you, but
No.
we'll get into that.
Okay.
But the pacing of this, did it feel
Yeah.
okay,
That was my
yeah,
thing.
I
It was
figured.
just in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it's just a setup of it.
So for me initially, and you're gonna get irritated when I say this, but Ridley Scott is known for this. There is a 4-hour version of this movie that he plans on releasing.
I mean, I'm excited. But at
Do
the same
you
time,
want to see that?
Well, yes, of course I want to
Yeah.
see it. But at the same time, it just sucks
Here's
to think that you can't release a movie that you genuinely want.
He is so obsessed with doing that, but here is my positive.
They're Netflix baiting us again.
I know, but Apple TV, because he did that with Napoleon.
Oh, okay.
Here's the positive here with that, though. This movie's already great. Like, I think him
That's
doing
true.
that, it would just be more of it. And I benefit from the fact that I felt like so immersed in this. I loved it really from beginning to end. I have one singular issue myself, and like I said, we'll go back into that later.
Yeah.
To really properly get into that. But let's talk more about like the production and stuff before we get
positives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Into the acting. What did you think of the battle sequences in this movie?
They were very unique.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, just because a lot of times where I just think especially in a close net space, they make it feel so wide.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the scenes where it's just one-on-one battles with one another, it felt so dramatic and just gigantic as well. And then especially with the water aspect with the ships.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just so different from a lot of other movies when there's like battleships happening.
Yeah.
With with water between it. And I don't know. Something about it, the fact that it was just already in a building in its own with the Colosseum.
Right.
And then it seems so small in a wide shot, but up close it feels so much larger than what it is. But I think it's just because it's to showcase how the characters are feeling during that moment.
No, I've seen so many comparisons to the original in reviews lately that, again, we benefit from the fact that we haven't seen it in a long time, so we don't have to do all that. We get to just review this movie on its own, and I loved the gladiator matches in this.
I also think that the fact that we try to like separate movies just from the first and second one, like, don't get me wrong, if we're gonna compare the movies in a franchise, I'm comparing them based off of like what I would want to watch more at the moment. But at the end of the day, I like to compare it like its own thing too.
But these two feel so companion piece in the sense that they're like two parts of a whole. Yeah, I do feel like this story... You
could also watch the second one without seeing the first one, I could say. And it just because they do make they talk about the past so easily to the new story that they're telling now, that you wouldn't have to see the first one to understand what's going on in the second one, because they do let you know.
I can confirm that. I saw that with my family. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I've seen it a few times. My sister saw it very recently.
Yes.
And my brother-in-law vaguely remembers the first movie. And the one that remembers it the least is him.
Oh.
And the plot twist with if you don't know that is Connie Nielsen's character, if you don't know that Lucius, Paul Mescal, is that character, it works as a plot twist for you. And I heard him like gasp in the middle of it. So it does translate very well to new audiences, even if they've technically seen it, but don't remember it. And I think that this story does work so well on its own, because at the end of the day, it's yet again, in a weird way, another one of those like underdog sports movies set in like ancient Rome in the Colosseum. However, it's also put in the middle of like political machinations, Game of Thrones stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's what Denzel Washington character definitely gave me.
Like that, and then there are Game of Thrones people in this.
That's true.
Yeah, and getting the performance in a second, but the Hound is in this too. I thought I recognized him.
Where?
He is the guy wearing like the big purple armor.
That's him?
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, that's crazy.
But I also loved the gladiator matches in this a lot. Did you have a favorite one?
Honestly, the one with Pedro Pascal. I think it's because it carries so much weight.
That's because, so when that scene actually happens, the music builds up, and then they're like walking through the...
Yeah, but it's because the fact that Pedro Pascal didn't want it to happen.
Yeah. And
Paul Mescal's character, he wanted to kill him because he killed his wife. And killed his wife in a sense. And while Pedro Pascal is like, no, this is something bigger that's happening right now, and it's insane. Yeah. It's just so good.
No, the way it builds up, I really do love because that translates into that old school kind of. It does feel old. This movie feels grand and big, and like Gladiator itself, when it originally came out, was also supposed to feel that way. It's supposed to harken back to like the big epics of like the 60s and 70s, and they're doing that again here.
Yes,
it's why the production design is really off the charts, and this movie looks amazing.
It looks amazing.
Are so many shots in this that I think that are just insane. I'm trying to. There's this one even. It's such like it's. You can tell that Ridley Scott's been working for as long as he has, because the energy in this is so. Everything just keeps on like adding up and stacking up throughout the entire movie. But it's something as simple as like a shot of like Connie Nielsen and Pedro Pascal trying to sneak through like into the bridge, but there's just this like 2-second shot of like this overnight sky and everything's blue, and you can see the horse walking through, and you're just like, it's just that old feeling of everything feeling bigger, even though the story, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's simple. It's about
a guy. So you got Paul Mescal trying to get revenge for his wife, and Pedro Pascal's character is just trying to have a better empire, not even empire, but like better, seas of control and like government for Rome. Yeah. And trying to like take over with these two emperors. Yeah. Who are definitely not the best people to lead.
They're not entirely there.
Yeah. Well, at least one of them was for sure.
Joseph Quinn, I felt his character was aware but narcissistic, and his brother was not aware.
Not at all.
And also narcissistic.
Whenever he appointed his monkey,
I would do it too.
I forgot what it was, like not second command,
the first in command. He put Macronus second in command.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, what? That made me laugh.
But yeah, the story is simple. It's like the first one. It's about a gladiator that is thrown in fighting for his own freedom, and you watch the games that precede that essentially while there's political stuff going on as well, and that's pretty much like that's the summation of it.
And then of course Denzel Washington character is just trying to like control everybody as well, just to get what he wants.
But before we get into like the characters and the performances here, what I really want to touch on is I love the way the gladiator sequences build, because they're all different. Like this reminded me of like Goblet of Fire, and
I don't see that.
Like their arena stuff, you know what I mean? Like there's different games and trials and stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
I do think just because the fact that in the gladiator scenes there were a lot of people in it, it just didn't feel as private.
Yeah.
As
No,
the
no,
Goblet of Fire
that's
ones.
private because
Yeah.
like the final one, like the maze, this is like
Yeah.
spectacle for
Yeah.
everyone to see.
But not even just the maze though. In Goblet of Fire, I feel like every sequence has had like its own thing.
There's also a plot point in this that's straight up. I'm wearing a One Piece thing actually.
Oh.
That's like there's a whole arc about like someone that's secretly trying to start a uprising while they're in like a gladiator setting, and so I was just like, hey.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's a pretty common thing.
Where it's like, you don't know what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
And it's like,
and
I want to kill
this
you.
is bigger than you.
Yeah. You're like, what the hell? What are you talking about?
Just like Batman v Superman, you know, whenever he's
It's
like,
like Martha.
Also got traces of that just because I mean, everything is similar to something basically.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, but I love the variations here. Like the first one where he like eats the baboon, kind of.
Oh yeah,
is amazing.
that was great.
Were you kind of not off put, but like were you struck by? I thought this movie was way more violent than I was anticipating it would be.
Yeah, I think it's just I don't remember how the first one went.
Yeah.
To be honest, and so when the second one came out, I thought it was PG-13.
Oh no, not this one. Yeah,
it was definitely rated R, just because of how what you said, like violent and bloody.
Yeah.
It got, but I guess it also reminds us like this is during the time too where a lot of like people, or like men would be so animalistic.
Yeah.
Well.
No, and that's the whole point of Paul Mescal's character is that he's like, there's so many. I'm anticipating the edits. I even texted you. There's so many times.
I'm still waiting for the edits, but I keep getting the like admiration edits more so than like the Sigma edits.
Oh really?
Yeah. Of Paul Mescal and like Pedro Pascal.
Oh, you're talking about the not admiration. This is like thirst trap.
Yeah,
videos.
thirst traps. Yeah, my bad.
You make it sound like they're like I really love their craft. And it's like,
I mean, I get it.
Like those TikTok videos. I overheard someone watching the one today that you were making fun of. That's like I'm lost.
I am lost. And it's like Daniel Day-Lewis.
No, but this one, like, I'm waiting for like the Denzel Washington thing where it's like rage and like,
and then Paul Mescal's like
and then I love that there's like brief moments of humor in this because it is very brooding. I haven't seen a movie this like kind of grim and going for being dark in a while. But just all this stuff with Paul Mescal and like everything that his character is essentially, but. I really loved the boat one as well. I'm a huge fan of sharks, and there were sharks.
I was just wondering, I'm like, how did they get sharks in there?
I don't know. And then
water.
people were arguing about the validity of that. Yeah. And I mean,
don't get me wrong.
I don't give a fuck. But
I was thinking the same thing, but when the scene actually happened, I was like, I don't care. I don't care how they got it in there. I just hopefully Paul Mescal gets out of it.
Apparently, they used to do stuff like that though. Like they used to fill in water into Colosseums. Yeah. Do not come at me if that's not true.
I don't know.
If you're like a historian, because I've also asked people. I asked a history teacher if he was excited for this.
Yeah,
and he said the first Gladiator is one of my favorite movies ever. None of it is that accurate. And then I asked him, "Are you excited for this one?" And he was like, "Well, yeah." So
it just looks awesome.
Yeah, what he thought of it, I don't know, but. Let's get into the cast of this movie. Who is your favorite?
The guy that he keeps gambling over and over again. Denzel Washington.
So, this movie has weird tinges of humor in it like that. But going off of that,
mine favorite is probably either Denzel Washington or Pedro Pascal.
I think everyone is bringing something different and unique to this movie.
Whoa, so which character did you hate?
And it's why it works. I didn't hate anybody.
Oh.
I loved everyone's performance. I just wish one of these characters got a little bit more to do.
Was it Joseph Quinn?
No, but I loved him too.
Yeah. I kind of wish, not just him, but both of them had a chance to at least showcase more. Like, I understand, like, the reason why they shouldn't be emperors.
Yeah.
But I wish they showed us more of like how they became emperors. To be honest,
I honestly love
because they talked about the story, casually. But I just like it just sounds so.
The thing is, I kind of love the approach of we do not know how they got there. We don't know why it's them. Yeah, I kind of really like that actually because they're even like.
I think because they just touched on it where the myth where there was a statue and then you see the two of them as kids.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Because they even have like the thing where they talk about Connie Nielsen. They're like, we granted her and something. They don't ever say what it is.
Yeah.
However, the way that they talk in the like the opening dialogue scene where they're introduced back with Pedro Pascal, where like he sees interaction, you could see the look on his face where he's like he's over this. That's the only sense of I'm like, I think this conversation was cut down a little bit, just because the way it's shot. It's a line I love where I think his name is pronounced Fred Heckinger, where he goes, they can eat war. And I love a lot of the dialogue in this. There are a lot of, I don't know if they were trying to replicate the amount of quotable things that are from the first one, but I feel like they do that here too, because there's a lot of lines I love. And that one, it just felt like the way that it was cut together. I'm like, I think that there was more to that conversation. And if they get a 4-hour cut of this, I'd be happy. But I'm also happy with the movie that we got too.
Yes. I mean, that movie was also almost 3 hours long.
Yeah,
so.
It was like 2.5. Yeah. But for me, I think that Denzel Washington is the best performance in this. It's the most showy.
I was shocked, to be honest. I really thought it was going to be either Paul Mescal and like Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Just being the like mostly the main leads and like taking over the movie and being the standouts, but I did not expect Denzel Washington to do that.
No, I think that every flourish he gives, like I said, with like his wardrobe, I think it all means something. I think everything is very calculated, not just by the performer, but by he's doing this like triple layer performance basically, where he's a performer playing as a performer essentially, because he's doing the Game of Thrones thing where it's like always playing the game. And I love it. There's like, because I've seen it twice, there's this one little interaction he has with someone where he drops the facade completely, and it's whenever he walks up to Paul Mescal's character when he first is getting his like injuries healed, and the way he like looks at the guy, he instantly drops like everything, and he looks at him with a kind of like a loathing, and I love that about his performance. Like you could just tell that like he's going for an over the top thing, which I think works really well with. I think that this is an underrated performance, actually, based off of everything I've heard. But Paul Mescal, which I want to ask you, what did you think of him in this?
I thought he did a great job.
Yeah.
Especially since, I don't know, he hasn't been in a lot of movies where it's such a big type, like a franchise in a way. Because I haven't seen him in that one movie, After Sun.
He is incredible in that, but it's a totally different thing from this.
Okay. And I've only seen him in Normal People.
Yeah.
And he did a great job in that show. And so in this movie, I knew that when it came to the emotional aspects, he will do a fantastic job. But I just never. He also did a good job though, just showcasing like the physical aspects as well.
Yeah. No, I mean his whole thing is to be an animalistic person. I mean everything I've seen with him before, he kind of just looks like a guy a little bit to me.
Oh yeah, because I mean
But in this one he doesn't. Like I don't know if it's because he does exude this like actor energy where he's able to put himself into different roles, and I thought it was funny. I was reading that Timothy Chalamet was apparently up for this role too.
Oh yeah, like Austin Butler and
but that they were gonna have Timothy Chalamet bulk up as well, which I can't process like what that would look like. But
you have to take steroids at that point.
I know that he like could pull that off too, that performance, but the actual look, you need someone that also looks like they can do some of the stuff that's there. And he does have a very naturalistic looking, like, muscular physique in this. It's not like there's some dude next to him that's fucking huge.
And I'm like, okay, there's no way. I was like, how are you doing that when you're like poor and like starving?
Yeah, and then they kill him so fast.
Yeah.
I like whenever he's like, break for the wall, and then he's like why should I listen to you? And dies so fast.
By a rhino.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way to go out, I guess. I also... tangent, but like I love the like thing where they had just a rhino head and they're like eating off of it, and they're like cutting the shavings off.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of people don't give enough credit to the stoic leads in movies because yes, Denzel Washington. Well, I mean,
you mean just like in this movie, or
just generally speaking, that a performance like his tends to go underrated because it's the less showy one. It's the one that's more straightforward. And Paul Mescal, though, I've seen enough stuff to know that, like, his face, he's also always evoking multiple layers of emotion, which he's doing in this as well. And I get it. It's like, it's really difficult to have a lot of one-on-one scenes with someone like Denzel Washington, but he does it. And I think that I don't have an issue with Pedro Pascal's character at all. I think he's great in this. I think they kill him a little too early. in this movie.
I disagree.
Really?
I think he served his purpose of showcasing, like, playing the double side.
Yeah.
And maybe if he wasn't caught early, sure.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely helps build the main character, Paul Mescal, understanding, like, this is bigger than me than just getting my revenge.
Yeah.
And so I definitely disagree on that.
I think it's just because I needed one more scene of why he feels the way he feels about the state that Rome is in. Like, I get it, I understand. But
I think if we saw the first movie, and understand, like, why he was so inspired. I forgot, like, I don't know if it was Russell Crowe's character,
Maximus Decimus Iridius, because it's a meme also that is.
And so I would think that's why. And if we could understand more of how the first one, how it happened and how it was inspiring to him, then I can see why he's doing what he was doing.
No, because even, like, right before, I love the scene in which he dies, by the way. Like, it's grand, and I love
how they both went on their knees.
And that actual fight is incredible. I think that it's a testament to the fights in this feel quick, but also dramatic in the sense that they're like, it's just, that's it. Like, there's nothing glorified about it. There's a line that, not even a line, it's a monologue that Denzel Washington has where he's like, they love violence, and he's like, what they love even more is people that, like, can cause that. And I love that they kind of build on Paul Mescal's character growth in a way where it's like he's not losing his animalistic side, but he's trying to, they're trying to, make him more reasonable. Up until that, final exchange with each other, which is when he finally says that thing where he's like, hey, I loved your dad, right? Or Maximus.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But I think that was just my one thing with that. Like, that's my con. Like, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you feel like you either loved or, like, you had an issue with?
I mean, besides the issue with this Ridley Scott's movies being slow in the beginning.
Yeah, let's get into that. What was the issue with the beginning?
Well, it's just the setup, right? Because you're just being introduced to new characters. And I think it took me a while to really care about Paul Mescal's character. As well. Like, I understand, like, I think what definitely got me into it, or I knew, like, oh, okay, the action sequences are going to be great. It's because of the first battle sequence.
And which is, like, instantly amazing.
It was great. But at the same time, I'm just wondering, I'm like, when am I going to start carrying this? Because, like, it's hard to separate, like, actors, like, the people from the character. Because I feel like if they put Pedro Pascal and it was somebody else in that role that wasn't so well known, like him, and, like, very likable, I think I would totally agree with you. It's like, maybe if we had more scenes with him, I would care. But I think the fact that it's also Pedro Pascal that helps.
Which, it doesn't help us that I do consider him, like, one of my favorite working actors. I just wish he was in more stuff so I could say that even more. But, like,
So I think stuff like that, it would help more in the beginning. And so I just think that maybe if they, I don't know, if it was a little bit more fast paced and just getting straight to the point too. So
I don't know, just because I have seen so much of Ridley Scott's work lately. We reviewed a lot of it. You did not love House of Gucci. I remember liking it a lot when it came out, but that had the same exact. He always has, and I think it's because he cannot stop making director's cuts. He always has a weird pacing issue somewhere.
It happens somewhere.
The only one I remember not thinking that was, well, also for me, this one, but Last Duel was phenomenal.
Oh, yes.
And but that had to be deliberately paced because of the nature of how that story's told on purpose. But I thought the exact same shit last year with Napoleon. There was, like, the start was weird, and then all of a sudden I just was really into it. I love that movie more than a lot of people, but like, I love that movie. And I have not seen the 4-hour cut yet, but I do need to. And I think that he's just so insistent on making those. I don't know if it's because of, like, he wants to replicate his Blade Runner thing from way back when.
I think it's just one of those, he just loves movie making so much that he genuinely wants to make his movie that he wants. And he clearly does. And it's just the studios themselves going, like, well, we're not doing that. And so he tries to find a way to make that balance.
Because he did that with, like, Prometheus and Alien Covenant too. He cut out, like, 2 super important scenes in that, both of those, for whatever reason. But, Erwin, getting into our final thoughts here. What did you think of Gladiator or Glad-2-ator? Did you like how they did that?
I was like, oh, cool.
Also, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite line in this movie? Because I felt like there were a lot.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Honestly, I can't think of one.
I can think of a few because I
Yeah.
love a lot of the line deliveries.
Maybe just the
especially from-
rage part when
Yeah.
like he first started saying that to Paul Mescal and saying like, I'm not looking for someone who's like just big and strong and all that.
Yeah.
Just somebody who has that rage.
Oh, he's like, I look
cool.
for rage.
Yeah.
I love that. I really love that line whenever Pedro Pascal dies and he says, "Is this how Rome treats its heroes?" I love
that was
it.
great
Yeah.
too.
But overall, what'd you think of this?
Overall, I loved it.
Yeah.
I'd probably give it a 4.5
Okay.
out of 5.
I loved this movie a lot. It's probably gonna. I mean, we're coming up on our end of the year
That is
favorites pretty soon. We'll see where it lands. But
I would love to see. I wonder if they are gonna release the director's cut.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he's already announced that they
Oh.
plan on doing that.
Nice.
But what did you think?
What was
of...
your score? You didn't
Oh
say
yeah,
it.
that's right. I was gonna say that and then, but
Oh.
I'll do it now. I love this movie a lot. I'm also giving it a 4.5 out of 5, just because I mean, there's one little character thing for me. Not that
Yeah.
he's bad in it; he's great in it. But that's it for me. And then yours was the beginning.
The beginning, which I mean, like, if it's pacing all the time, then it's like where, if added with the director's cut, like where would that be?
Yeah.
Like, how would it fit in?
I don't know. I'm curious because sometimes longer things feel shorter if it's paced
Yeah.
differently. But getting into the final thoughts here, what did you think of Gladiator 2? We want to know. I've seen a lot
Do
of.
you want a third one?
Do you want a third one, actually? What would that even be? I am curious because I've seen a lot of opinions kind of over the map from the audience side of things, actually. Because from what I understand, the first one is beloved by audiences. It's critically well reviewed,
Yes.
but it's more reviewed like how this one was, actually. But I don't think people really remember that. And I've seen people like hold that original really near and dear to their hearts, apparently.
It's always crazy to see people who love movies from like way back then, from the 90s, 80s, let's say, or like
Yeah.
early 2000s, and they never talk about it, right? You never hear them like just write essays or talk about these like long paragraphs about these certain movies until like a sequel starts happening or something
Yeah.
resembles about it,
And then they're like
like a legacy or some sort,
Yeah.
and they're like, this movie was so untouchable, why did you guys do this? And or it's like, I hold this movie dear to me, and I'm like, damn.
For me, I thought this, I mean, at least from my memory,
Yeah.
like really doesn't forsake the original in any kind of way. I think this movie's incredible all on its own.
Yes.
And like if this was Gladiator 1, I'm sure that it would be like, you know,
Oh.
then again, that movie was influential. So who's to say? But I thought this was incredible.
Yes.
So
I thought
did
it was
he.
incredible too.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys thought. What's up next?
Wicked.
Wicked, which got a lot to say about that one.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we will see you next time.